Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to Venting with Us. Yes, we made it another week. Let me just tell you what has happened this week. First of all, we had a huge snowstorm. We haven't had one in like 4 or 5 years, and people are acting like it was the end of the world. I swear to you. Uh, I went to the supermarket to grab a couple of things for the weekend, and when I went into every single aisle, there was literally nothing left. I'm like, people, you act like you've never been in a snowstorm before. You don't know what to expect. Um, First of all, yes, we haven't had a snowstorm in 4 or 5 years, but it's gonna be okay. It's one day, and you'll be able to like just live your life for the next rest of your life. I don't understand what's going on here. Um, it was the craziest thing. Like literally. The only thing that I get upset with the snowstorms is that when I go out there to shovel, my body hurts. Like I'm starting to use muscles that I haven't used in a really long time. So shoveling is like it's like literally like that. It's like you don't want me really out there shoveling at all. Any type of I swear to you, you don't really want me shoveling out there. And I hurt myself. Meanwhile, I am having surgery in the next month or two, on March 13th. So that was not good for me. I woke up like this. I was like, thank God, I don't have to do anything today. Oh my God. But I have to say, I have had the worst internet service. Um, for the day. It's been crazy. I posted videos yesterday and I couldn't get the videos out. I'm like, what is going on? This is not cool at all. Like, the algorithm is going to think that I haven't posted anything. Like, this is like serious. So that was my only concern. Meanwhile, people are worried about food and whatnot. Now, here's my thing. You're shopping like the end of the world, right? And meanwhile, it's only a day, guys. Like, I think we got too comfortable with not having snow, but reality kicked in and it was like, okay, look, there's snow again. Okay. But like, what do you now? You have too much food, and now you're gonna have to eat all of this food because some of this food, it's like if you buy too much bread, you gotta eat the rest of the bread within a timely manner because if not, then it's gonna go bad. Like, what if you're one of those that doesn't eat a lot of bread? You only eat bread occasionally. It could be like a whole new nuance. So yeah, I don't know what people were thinking, but yeah, it was a little bit crazy for me to realize that all these people are buying and the supermarkets are empty all because of one little baby snowstorm. It was an inch of snow, guys. Relax. Okay. Now, if it would have been like 5, 6 inches, I would have been like, oh my God, yeah, definitely like shots to drop and blah, blah, blah. But it was an inch of snow, an inch of snow. It wasn't that big. It was fine. Okay. Everybody lived, everybody had a day off. It was fine. Okay. So relax. So we're going to get into the secret in the suitcase. That's what we're talking about today, which is the Melanie Mcquire case. Now, if you don't know this case, this was a case back in 2004 where it was all over the news. A New Jersey woman had murdered or butchered her husband and put his body parts in 3 separate suitcases throughout the Mesquite the oh no, yeah, was it? Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the Massapequa, the Chesapeake Bay, and then was convicted and sentenced to life in jail. Her case is still ongoing as she still continues to say that she's innocent. But of course, they all want to say that they're innocent, right? So let's get down to it. There's a lot to cover on this story. Um, of course, to this day, as of 2025, or 2026, I should say, she still thinks that she's been wrongfully convicted. Back in May 5th, 2004, Virginia Beach had an odd discovery on the beach of Chesapeake Bay Beach. A group of fishermen noticed a suitcase in the water, and they were, of course, curious, or they thought they found gold, and found pieces of male legs from the knee down. 6 days later, on May 11th, 2004, a student was on Fisherman Island and saw a dark green Kenneth Cole suitcase, and found that the head of the torso of the body was in the suitcase, and could not believe that the body was dismented this way. The torso was still attached to the arms and the head, and the head was wrapped in what looked like a medical blanket. The face was somewhat identified, but because it had been sitting in the water for so long, it had bloated. So the medical examiners were able to kind of distinguish who the person was, but they couldn't distinguish who the person was um, because of that. Um, but the medical examiners were able to determine that the victim was shot multiple times. There were a couple of shots in the torso area and in the head. Two bullets were recovered at the time, so that way they can be able to distinguish what type of weapon was used during the murder. On May 16th, 2004, the third suitcase was discovered by a fisherman. In the suitcase, they found the pelvis, which, if you don't know what the pelvis is, this is the waist down to the knees, and they could not believe what they had found. The fact that there were three separate suitcases with body parts in one location was the biggest murder in New Jersey that they could ever realize that, like, this is they thought it was a serial killer. On May 16th, 2004, the police had a sketch artist draw a picture to find out who the person was, because at this point they didn't know who the person was. They just had him out there as a John Doe. But luckily, a friend who was watching the news recognized that the person that sketch artist had, created this picture of, was a man named Bill Mcquire, who lived in New Jersey. And he also had two children. His wife, Melanie Mcquire, stated that they had had a fight and that he had left, and they had complications within their marriage, you know, but that she couldn't understand why that he had left. He had left for 30 days out of the house, and the detective started to, analyze, like, what is happening here. You didn't really, like, notify the police that your husband had been missing for 30 days, that um it didn't seem odd to you that there was no phone calls, there was no way of messaging, there was no communication within this time that your husband um had been maybe missing for that time, and that it went completely silent. So the detectives had to really dig into Melanie's past and to Bill's past to see exactly who were these people. I always say, if you commit a crime, what you don't want to do is, like, leave breadcrumbs all over the place, right? And again, you can't really do a crime these days and not get away with it. It's really, really hard unless you have, like, a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan B, D, E, going there, because um there's always evidence somewhere somewhere. And the do's and the don'ts that you don't want to do. One is look on a computer and be like, how do you get rid of a body? First of all, if you're going to commit a crime, let's not even Google computers, okay? Let's stay away from the internet because you know that the police are going to definitely look at your computer, your phones, your everything. So, guys, if you're thinking about committing a crime, stay away from the computers, okay? Because that's the first thing that they're going to see. Second of all, if you're going to do a crime, don't go out shopping. If you go to Home Depot, which every like serial killer always ends up going to shop at Home Depot or like Lowe's, they buy bags, they buy saws, they buy all of these equipment. Don't go to those places. Like buy it like way in advance. Like buy it like 2 years. Like, oh, I bought a saw like 2 years ago. I didn't think he was gonna end up murdered. Hello. It's not that I'm trying to like give murderers like, a whole I'm just saying if you're gonna commit a crime, you really gotta think of like ahead of time because they're gonna start. There's gonna be receipts. There's gonna be cameras. When you go into Home Depot, there is cameras. Guys, you gotta be a lot smarter than this. So you don't want to start buying things, and don't think about Amazon. Okay, like all of a sudden you buy a saw on Amazon, and then you get it delivered to your house. Like, hello. I'm just gonna say, like, I was thinking about cutting up a body at around that time. Okay, you may not want to do that. Don't buy like these random garbage bags. Like you suddenly stock up on garbage bags, or you buy suitcases. And the one thing you don't want to do, okay, me being like a detective and whatnot, which I'm not, um, yeah, the most common thing to say is, "Well, me and my husband had a fight, and he said he was leaving." No, bitch! Don't say that because that is criminal evidence. That is more than enough evidence for the detectives to say, "Oh, they were fighting." Okay, well, let's see. That drove her to being psychotic and, like killing her husband. Yes, you don't want to do that. Like, just be like, oh yeah, we had a happy home. Look at all the photos. We were so like, I would start taking pictures and be like, like, okay. Not that I'm a serial killer or anything, but I'm just saying, hello, be a lot smarter. But anyways, before I take this too far, let's go down the rabbit hole of who Melanie was. So Melanie was born and raised in New Jersey. She was a waitress and met Bill Mcquire, who was actually a server at a restaurant. They worked at the same place. He was infamous for being the rude server, but who would end up getting a lot of customers because how rude he was. And then Melanie later on became a fertility nurse. That is like the more crazy thing because she was a nurse, so she definitely knows how to kill people. Um, the relationship was tumultuous. There was a constant infidelity in the marriage, in the relationship. They were broken up, they would get back together, they were broken up, they would get back together. And this was on and off for a good 12, 13 years before they ended up like really getting married despite of all of the issues. Family members described Bill as a dual personality. He was a great person. He was so funny and charismatic at one point, but he was also a person that would flip and be manipulative. And he had these horrible habits of gambling and spending a lot of money and not really being a really great husband to Melanie. Melanie had an affair during this time in her marriage with a man named Billy Miller. He was also a well-known doctor in the area, and she actually worked for his practice. During this time, Melanie was about 30 weeks pregnant with her second child, and she started up this relationship with Bill Miller. with Billy Miller. Oh my God, I can't even say the name. Billy Miller, and she had then went on maternity leave, and when she got back to the office is when the affair actually went into full blown. And Billy would tell her that, he wants to be with her, he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. And they would have this relationship that he would divorce his wife, typical man. Um, um, and he would just keep feeding her all of these things. So police were watching Billy and seeing, his day to day process. On April 28th, 2004, Dr. Miller does not want Melanie to continue her relationship with um Bill. They were talking about buying a house. He was so reluctant to get ahead of the game, which most people are around that time in their life. They want to succeed, they want to keep going forward, they want all of these things, and they want a quick way of doing it. And a lot of people do things that are not actually legal enough to do. But Bill really, really, really wanted to live this lifestyle of the rich and famous, and he ended up finding this house in New Jersey, and they ended up moving in. And Dr. Miller was like, "No, I don't want you to do this. Do not get this house with your husband. I want to be with you." And it really set alarms off with the police because, was this a motive? Was this the motive that led to Bill's death? They don't know. This would be a motive. This is the common motive that people do have when they do commit crimes. Okay, they start living in a big house. There's a lot of money. Now, wacko! I killed your husband. I killed my husband. Oops, he fell down the stairs. Something can happen. Uh, anything is possible. Later, Melanie would state that there was this huge argument when they had moved in. It was like a couple of weeks. She was, just sorting the house out. She was cleaning up, and that Bill was angry with her because he found dryer sheets. And, the thing was that they did replay back into the original interview, and the story had stayed the same. But one thing is that when you're a liar, you have to remember what you said. You have to have good memory. Judge Judy is infamous for saying this. If you're going to be a good liar, you have to have good memory, quote unquote. And she has always stated that, this argument had happened about the dryer sheets. Bill was so angry because he thought it was so cheap. He shoved it into her mouth, and they had this huge argument because he didn't really like the house, but he was forced to move into this house. First of all, nobody forces you to move into a house. You like it or you don't like it. But I think he wanted to save that marriage, and he thought that by buying this house it would save his marriage. There wouldn't be an affair because he knew about the affair. Um but that was not the case. She had then stated to Dr. Miller that, then that argument happened. It was really tumultuous, and Bill had left the house. He said he was never coming back, which is a bad sign. Again, because if you're a murderer, it's always the same thing. It's always the same thing. Oh, my husband left. He said he was never coming back, and then he ends up dead. So that was bad news right there. So, um, her friends and family has started to become a little bit weary about this situation. It didn't make any sense. You're in an abusive relationship. Okay, things have gone awry. But 30 days have passed and you haven't contacted the police to let them know that there has been no type of communication. You have not heard from your husband. Nothing out of the ordinary has, sparked, a little bit of worry to this. It didn't make any sense to anybody. And people that knew Bill knew that he was always a person that had communication, that he was the type of person not to go silent like that. Yes, he did have a gambling problem. Yes, he would like to go to Salt Lake City and figure out how to make more money, but there was always constant communication. So they couldn't understand this this side, this facade that was happening over here with Melanie. The police did end up finding the suitcases. And when that had happened, they had no choice by that point to go ahead and tell Melanie that her husband was dead. During the interview, they seemed a little bit alarmed because Melanie at no point asked, how did he die? What happened to him? When did this happen? When did you find? There were so many empty questions that she couldn't give them that is very suspicious. Now, again, if you're going to commit a murder, you got to be like, when did my husband die? How did you got to be a little bit theatrical, in it. I'm not saying that that's what you should do by all means if you commit a crime. I'm just saying there's different signs where you can see psychologically of someone who is shocked about a murder. And she seems upset, but because she didn't ask how her husband died, where these things were found, the police had a little red flag, and they said to themselves, this is not normal behavior. This is not someone who their spouse has died and there's no emotion to it. And this is where a lot of people get caught, because now they start investigating. Of course, it's always the spouse that's the first person that they're going to look into, and then it's the family member and whatnot. But she left so many breadcrumbs. Like, don't leave breadcrumbs all over the place. It's just crazy what she did. Um, the police decided that they were not going to share the details of how Bill was murdered. So what they ended up doing was phone tapping her phones and trying to figure out who Melanie as a person was, as an individual was. And they ended up finding out through all of these phone taps that, guess what? This is where the theatrical music comes into play. She was having an affair. So if they didn't have phone tap her phones, they would have never known about the affair. Now, they knew that she had access to Dr. Miller's prescriptions and all of these things in the office because she worked for him. She was a nurse for him. So they ended up asking her, well, where is the car? Because they couldn't figure out like all of these things. The other thing that the cops dug into was where she was going, her location, and they started tracking her Easy Pass. Her Easy Pass ended up going out into Atlanta and Atlantic City, I should say. I'm sorry. Um, and they questioned that, and she told them, she's like, "Well, I went to Atlantic City because blah, 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 Atlantic City, blah, 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 because I knew that he was there gambling, and I wanted to move his car so that way he couldn't find his car, which was a bizarre you know, story. But here's the thing. As a female, I look at it as you when you're angry and when you're in a relationship and you know your husband is doing something or your boyfriend is doing something, you tend to do psychic, psychotic things that are out of the norm. It's definitely not the most, you know, logical sense that you can make to people. But when you're in those situations, I can understand where she was coming from. I can understand her going to Atlantic City and moving his car and then him getting frustrated that he can't find his car. So I can get that as a female, you know. Especially when you know that all of these things and you're frustrated. A lot of people will be like, "Oh my God, are you crazy? How can you even think that way?" Well, no, when a woman is burnt and she is tired and she has really, really have been way past her limits, women do the most craziest thing that are outside their box that you could never imagine. Okay. So I can sympathize with this situation. What doesn't make sense is that they ended up finding human particles inside the car when they swabbed the car. So that's where kind of where her downfall was. Then they checked the Easy Pass again and they noticed that she had made a trip to Delaware. So now in order to go to Delaware, you have to pass Chesapeake Bay. This is where the timeline where they believe that she dumped the 3 suitcases of his body and, you know, got rid of the crime. Now, here's the thing though. In order to dismantle, not that I've dismantled a body in my life, it's really hard work. It's a lot of, her kids are there. When is this happening? The timing doesn't seem right. Um, it's just a lot. But who knows? There could have been another person. In order to do all of these things, like moving her the car and going back to the car, you would have needed another person, right? Or she would have had to have figured out a way to get her car located in the middle of the Flamingo Hotel, which is where she left her husband's car, and then was able to get back to her car so that way she can get back home. There are just a lot of things that don't make sense if she did murder her husband, which I do still think that she did murder her husband. Um, it just doesn't make any sense. On June 2nd, 2005, Melanie was taking her kids to school. It was a regular day, and the cops were waiting for her to drop off her children at school, and they arrested her. On April of 2007, 2 years later, Melanie was found guilty um, with parole at the age of 101. Who the hell is thinking about parole at 101 years old? At that point, you might as well just be like, I'm gonna be in here for the rest of my life. So now it has been said. Here's one side is saying that she's guilty and that they have all of this evidence, right? And then you have the other side where even podcasters that have been following this case have said something doesn't make sense because when Melanie did purchase a gun, she went to Pennsylvania, she purchased a gun, but that gun was never found. And not only was that gun not found, but the bullets didn't match. So how could she have shot her husband? The other thing is the garbage bag. In the court case, the forensic science had stated that the garbage bags were the same, that she had bought them and it matched to what they found in the suitcases, but there was a possibility that they may have not been the same. So that is another conclusion. Um, the other thing that happened was that there was animal hair that were tied into the bags. Melanie and Bill never had a pet. So how is it that she would have committed this crime, but yet they never owned a pet? Where did this pet come from? They did link Melanie's father to the crime, her stepfather, but he had been declared that he was not involved. There was nothing, no involvement in this case with him. So it's unsolved. So again, your opinion, you can watch this on 2020. It's on episode 42. It's on season 42. Wait, what did I say? um, you can watch it on 2020. You can Google it, and you can decipher for yourself. There is a movie that is out on Netflix. It's called the Suitcase Murder, and you can watch it on Netflix. Decipher for yourself whether or not if she did or she didn't. Do you guys think that she killed this man, or do you think that she did not kill this man? Soon to be undetermined. I think, to be personally, that she killed him. Well, it's been a great, great episode. I hope that you guys stay blessed, and I will see you again next week with another documentary. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Love you guys. Bye.